What's going on? Welcome back to Fly Tying Friday. Things are looking a little different this week. Spent a little time out here doing exactly what I love, which is all of this. Fishing, camping. There's a river, a beautiful, gorgeous river, right behind you. Brought a bunch of stuff, made a bunch of food, spent a whole night out. Actually, I think about once a week, don't quote me on that. Actually, we should try to, let's stick to that. About once a week, I'd like to put out just one adventure video. It's fun getting out here, and I spend a little bit of time being able to like kind of slow down after kind of like posting and looking at trends and like just getting into the influencer brain a little bit. And so I think it's kind of nice to like split the week a little bit and do a little camping trip. If you guys are normal watchers of the Fly Tying Fridays, we take a pattern from a creator on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I try to replicate it as a beginner tire, and then we take it to the river and fish it. Sometimes though, we switch it up just a little bit, and I'll kind of show you guys something that I've been working on, AKA something that I tied up randomly and I think it might be fishy. So let's give it a shot. This is, hold on, actually, I have to get all this stuff out. It's a combo, actually, I don't even know what this is. It's kind of like a egg-sucking leech slash zertle, which is like, oh man, a girdle and a zonker, I think is like the combination. It's more of a crayfish pattern-esque. So it's a bit of a buggier color than some of the egg-sucking leeches, but it, in my opinion, is still pretty effective for browns and brookies, and potentially like steelhead and honestly, I think most trout would probably try to hit this, but that's just me. That's just my opinion, you know? Really all that it is I'm using the FM 6040s because I have them and I actually haven't gone to the fly shop in a little bit. I'm using the FM 6040 hook to streamer stripper, Teflon coating. I'm using round rocks. These are a 4.5 millimeter slotted tungsten orange. So that's our bead at the top technically. And then I've got this dubbing blend, it's saltwater dubbing blend, and I used it for, I think like it's like the egg sac of a shrimp, or the head of a shrimp. I actually can't remember, but it's for shrimp, and I tied this up with stuff in saltwater, but I'm using it as a dubbing just around the neck as a collar. And it kind of gives it that like, maybe bait fish has bit into an egg and it's kind of like opened up a little bit, which I feel sometimes that like extra just movement and stuff in the water just gives the fish just an extra reason to smack it. So yeah, that's what we got. Actually, I still need things. I still need more things. Yeah, as we go into the holidays and all that sort of stuff, I'm totally switching pace here. Few giveaways, few upcoming things for very good fly fishing that I'd love for you guys to check out. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'll add the trailer to my new film, Lost Lakes, in the end of this, so you guys can check it out. So stay to the end and you guys can see the upcoming film. I release a film, what it's been recently is around every year I release a film because it takes me a while to cook these things. The logistics, the planning, the storyboarding, the pitching, all that stuff takes a really long time. And then the actual creation sometimes just gets stunted by the fact that I'm working on short form stuff. And I can't always spend as much time as I'd like to on it. But yeah, I think we're gonna try to do that a little bit more frequently, maybe once a month. I've got a backlog of stuff. We have a film about bull trout in Alberta. I've been sitting on that for 3 years. That was the first thing that we filmed when we got into the van, so I need to release that. We did a trip with Dakota and trout routes, back last year, and I'm just gonna move this out of the way. And we drove 2,300 miles just to go to a fly shop, which was Dakota's home base in Boulder, Colorado. Cool films, all stuff that I obviously would love to share with you guys. I just haven't worked on them. And that's on me, dog. So let's get into it. Really simple fly, super simple fly. I'm gonna have to hold a bunch of stuff because I don't want this vise to move, and unfortunately, it will. Whoa, oh my gosh. All right, yeah. We're just gonna be careful. That's what I get for unlocking the thing, or like basically taking it apart and then hoping that it comes back to, oh wait! Hello. Okay, hold on. One sec. Quick intermission. Oh, that's gonna feel a lot better. All right, where's my light? There we go. Alrighty. This light is literally so that that camera can see what's going on. All right, hopefully nothing moved. So, so what you want to do first is put the bead on. I forgot to do that, so I'm gonna have to start over. One moment. Whoa, okay, that actually wasn't that much thread. I had that whole thing wrapped about twice. That's how much thread it was. If you can't really, probably can't. You can't see that. That's all right, that's fine. All right, the idea of this little guy, also, another thing, I mentioned this in my last video, because I did get a friendly shout out, or friendly call out, which is always helpful. Thankfully, I wasn't in that area, but there are some rivers that are shut off to fishing weighted flies for fish. So you have to be careful, make sure that you check your rigs. I do, because social media can be crazy sometimes, and people can kind of like come after you for nothing. Not saying that this person did, they didn't, it was actually a really helpful comment. But there are people every once in a while who want to try to catch you in the act of doing something. So I check the rigs like crazy because I don't want to do anything wrong. I'm also broadcasting myself fishing these places. So I want to be really careful. And at the same time, that's what kind of all of us should be doing, just to make sure that like we're fishing these fish the most sportsmanly way that we possibly can. All right, here we go. Talk a lot, man. So we're not gonna need a ton of this, but I'm just using, crap, I use this all the time, Zonker strip. Zonker strip. And really all that's gonna happen here is, I'm actually gonna cut it off from this main pad here. I'm almost trying to tie like some sort of a micro fly. So we're not really going in crazy with a tail here. These things are gonna be super fluffy when you first tie them, but you'll see that they actually really shape up nice the second that they hit the water. All right, going in there, we're just gonna secure that down. With a few tight wraps, you can kind of pull it towards yourself a little bit, and then we're gonna go up here. Just get that thread out of the way. What you can do is use your rotary vise. I've got too much stuff on the table, so I'm not gonna tie everything off and make it all crazy, but really what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap towards myself here, and then I'm just gonna pull this fur back. And we're just gonna palmer it up. If you don't know what palmering it is, it's basically you take, it's what I'm doing right now. Actually, I'm not even sure if I know how to explain this. You take the stuff that you're using, it's like almost like a tailpiece sometimes. In this case, it's a tailpiece. And then you use the rest of the thread or the rest of the material to wrap up to the hook, and it creates like a more rounded body. You can use it for nymphs, you use it obviously for streamers and stuff, and that's what I'm currently doing now. All right, we're up there. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, when I was kind of working this up, I tried a variation with rubber legs, because that's kind of what the zertle is. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it that much. Also, I'm really bad at proportions with rubber legs, but, Careful how you cut this also, because the last 2 videos I have left my fly without a bobbin attached to it. that's it. You palmer that up, and then all we're gonna do, what I have been doing is I've been using a slightly, what is this thread? 100 yards waxed Flymaster Plus. Danville's 210. It's just another saltwater thing. Also, anyways, yeah, I've been splitting the thread, and then I put the dubbing material inside of it, and I just use my whip finish tool to do that. It's a little easier if you unspin it, and you kind of just put a little bit of pressure on the flat piece of the thread until you catch something in the middle here. Dude, there you go. And then once you split it, kind of just open her up there. Grab a bit of your dubbing material, which I should have done first. Whoa, that's way too much. And then I've just been placing it inside of that little loop here. I'll spread it out. I'll give it a little spin. Give her a little spin. And then wrap it up. And as you're wrapping it, once it starts to look a little bit disorderly, that's when pull it all back. And then you whip it off. These flies are supposed to be really easy to tie. But for me, I'm kind of looking for those like brookie candy type flies, because that's what a majority of my rivers have in them. Surprisingly enough, we do have Atlantics. We do have, yeah, I'm gonna use the end of this here. Good gracious. I've never had that much trouble cutting that. I always end up just pulling too hard and cutting it myself. I think it's because it's a waxed, like, almost like a GSP type situation here. Okay, here we go. This is the fly. That's literally all it is. It's a little fluffy in this little section. It's kind of like a micro leech, but this thing rocks. It bombs some of the rivers around here, which is really great. And it gets a lot of fish to kind of get agitated and angry, because it's almost like an aggressive, what do you call it? It's like a jealousy strike, if you will, because they see potentially another fish has an egg, and usually they want the egg, or they see it as like a double meal. They're like, oh shoot, there's a small bait fish and an egg, I'll have that. So yeah, that's it. This is the fly for this week. I don't know what we're calling it. Maybe you guys can name it, or if this already exists, just tell me what it's called, because I'm out here with no phone service, thinking I'm inventing stuff, and that's never good. So yeah, if you know the name to whatever this thing is or what it's closest to, write that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys what you guys think of this fly. If you've ever tried some of the flies that I've tied up that have been a random crazy occurrence. But yeah, I'm gonna sit in here with the fire for a little bit longer, and then we're gonna go fishing, because it's about 15 degrees outside. Here's the fly dry. This is before I obviously dip it in the water. Here it is wet. You can see it's got a nice little silhouette to it. I hopped around from these pools and actually ended up kind of just sticking at this one, because you can see I keep getting hits, like the rod keeps going dunk, dunk, keeps getting like bumped a little bit, because there's a bunch of tiny brookies in here trying to eat the fly. Sometimes they would take it as it was kind of swimming upstream a little bit, like a normal streamer. They didn't want it very fast. There, I just popped one and then completely lost it. But they didn't want it super fast. They also didn't want it too slow, so I was kind of just going a bunch of different directions just to see if they would take it in a dead drift or if they wanted it floating upwards. It seemed that most of the time they didn't want it in the deep end on that far bank over there, or that center rock. They wanted it more towards the shallow side, and then they would chase it. Whether it was going downstream or upstream, they would chase it and they would hit it. And you can see a couple of times I get a good whack from one of these fish. and then I immediately either lost it. I think I lost it maybe 1 or 2 times before I started this video, and then after a little while you can see one of these fish actually commits. But I'm almost fishing like a kind of a combination of streamer and Euro nymphing with a 6-7 foot rod, 7.5 foot rod on the butter sticks. I know that there's usually small wild fish in here, but with the temperatures, they're really quite lethargic, and getting them to eat can be a bit tricky.
Let's go. Get...
That was the only fish that I got in the net, but at least I didn't fall. No, I did fall. Well, the thing is, I went in here, fished for a second, but at least I learned my lesson on the way out. Nope, still fell on the same rock. Thank you for tuning into this week's Fly Tying Friday. This was this thing, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Some time ago, places like these were teeming with life. So much life that it's almost impossible to imagine now. As an angler, I've always wondered what the places I fish looked like before me. Before the footprints, before the worn down trails, before thousands of casts found their way across these waters. What if I told you there's still places where that dream crosses into reality? Where nature has quietly reclaimed what was once heavily traveled. Where the forest took back the trail, the wind erased the footprints, and the water healed from a century of harvest. They're out there, hidden in the folds of the Adirondacks. Lost to time, and almost lost to us. These are the Lost Lakes.